If you ever find yourself bored by Hollywood's output, there are hundreds of fantastic films made around the world every single year. Italy, Hong Kong, France, Japan, South Korea, and Spain have produced some of the best films ever made. This week, we are not talking about one of the best films ever made. Welcome to our discussion of The Night of 1,000 Cats, a movie about a playboy serial killer who feeds his victims to his army of adorable cats. Welcome to Spooky of the Week.
It's time for Spooky of the Week! We are back, and we're talking about another spooky movie. We're in the month of spooks. We're 1 week in now.
The spookiest month of the year, with the spookiest movies of the year.
That's the Spooky of the Week guarantee.
That's the spookiest month guarantee.
Of the year. And we're filming this on the spookiest day of the year.
Wednesday. We're ramping up the spooks. Last week was... And normally I'd say something like this is a bit, but genuinely last week was not spooky at all, and we apologize. Sam Slade is writing his apology tweet as we speak.
No, I'm not. If a tweet comes out saying I apologize, just know I'd write it.
We had to bring it back, because we...
I know, I brought it last week. We got to bring it again.
No.
Back meaning from like last year.
Yeah.
And what is the spookiest animal?
Cats.
These are Hugo's pussy cats. Hugo takes good care of his pets. He loves his cats and feeds them a very special recipe. By themselves, they are only a harmless pussy cat. 1,000 strong, they become a man-eating machine. The management of this theater offers free burial insurance to anyone who dies of fright during the film. Caskets are optional on the West Coast. When the cats are hungry, run for your lives.
I'd say bats are spookier.
Well, but cats are associated with witches.
Coyotes.
Are not associated with witches?
Wolves?
Bears are scary.
Bears are scary.
I said spooky. I didn't say scary.
I would say cats and bats are pretty much tied.
Those are the top ones.
They're spelled almost the
spiders.
same.
Ooh, but those are like insects. I don't know if they count as like animals.
The ones with fur are mammals.
So I recommended this movie, and I originally found this movie not looking for a Spooky of the Week. And I was scrolling through older horror movies, and I just saw one that was The Night of 1,000 Cats. And I kind of giggled to myself because the poster is of an evil cat. And then I clicked on the, I was just like, this is kind of funny, and killer cats. And I was like, cats are so cute. Like Pepper's on the ground right now.
Why is Pepper not in the video?
Yeah, Pepper.
If anything.
You don't want to be in this video? The one about cats you have no interest in being in? Cats are cute. And if I saw a movie that came out in 2013 called Night of 1,000 Cats, I'd be like, oh, this is like some cheesy, shitty, intentionally bad. But it came out in the 1970s. And I scrolled through and I was like, it's probably really silly when they have the cats try to kill people. So I just scrolled to the end to see, are there any good cat kills? And I just saw the part where the cat jumps on the guy, and I was like, that's pretty funny. I bet the movie's full of those.
I'm sure the whole thing's about a swarm of cats.
So anyway, left my brain, because Sam Slade decided that the theme for this year would be 1970s horror movies. As I was trying to pick something, I had a couple of options. I looked at the bottom 100 movies on IMDb for the 1970s, and as I was scrolling through, I saw The Night of 1,000 Cats, and I was like, holy shit! I just was looking at that movie a couple weeks ago. I thought the part where he gets killed by a cat was kind of funny.
That'll be the whole movie.
With a lot of bad 70s movies, and because I did the same thing for a lot of movies. There were a lot that almost made the cut for this that I didn't choose because they didn't even have the part where the cat kills a guy.
They just had nothing going on.
They have literally nothing. There's so many movies where it's just a group of people talking in a bad set, and then they throw some goo on a guy, and then that's the whole movie. Yeah. If I'm gonna bring something, I wanted to make sure there was at least a little bit of meat, and I was like, The Night of 1,000 Cats had some meat, pun intended.
There's meat.
There's meat. There's meat.
You've never tasted anything as delicious as this. Doggo is a great cook. And meat.
I saw how low it was rated, and I was like, Alec, he's doing another attack. Once again, picked something purposely bad to make us all suffer. He's after me specifically. He took a theme that I wanted to do, and he picked a movie that looks like it should have came out in the 50s instead of the 70s.
No, dude. In the 50s, they couldn't have moved the camera that much.
It doesn't look like a 70s movie. It looks like a 60s movie.
Look, I'll give you 60s. It's a Mexican film.
Yeah.
It stars Hugo Stiglitz, which I did not know was a real person.
My first note was all caps, Hugo Stiglitz.
I literally the same thing.
Spun out.
I did not know he was a real person, and then I saw his name in the credits, and I was like, Hugo Stiglitz, now.
He's also in the movie.
Well, he's the main character.
He's
As Hugo.
as Hugo.
Yeah.
So Hugo Stiglitz is
This movie
the
is a
character and
documentary.
the actor.
Yeah. And Hugo Stiglitz plays Clint Eastwood from Play Misty for Me. He just plays Fuck Man.
As a
Except he has a helicopter. Instead of his like raw like prowess and
Charisma,
coolness
yeah.
and charisma, he just has a helicopter.
He just has a helicopter that
And
he
he plots it out-
terrorizes women with.
That he terrorizes.
This movie
I wouldn't say
definitely.
terrorized, because they weren't terrorized.
Yeah, I was
Not
gonna say
one was
This
terrorized.
movie definitely came out before 9/11 because if anybody was going into people's backyards with a helicopter, nobody'd be acting that casually. I'm like, why is someone freaking out? He's going in your backyard with a helicopter.
He's searching for women. How do you do that? You know, most people might go to the club, might go to the bar, might go to another place.
Yeah, but most people don't have a helicopter.
Most people don't have a helicopter. Hugo Stiglitz has a helicopter, and he will just fly it in front of your window, in your backyard, right inches above your pool.
The skids dip into the water in the pool.
That seems incredibly
So-
fucking
Yeah,
dangerous.
Well, everything in this movie was dangerous. They're throwing cats for real.
What it reminded me of
chucked that cat,
is
dude.
We'll get to the cat checking.
in Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. This is directly connected. There is a scene with a helicopter where it went really low, and then there was a real life helicopter accident where it crashed, and they just rolled with it
Oh
and
my
pretended
God.
it was staged.
There's also the famous Twilight Zone helicopter crash. Spiraled
Special
out.
effects
Yeah.
hit it.
And it
they
just
tumbled over
they
two
lost
people.
control. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, helicopters are dangerous, and I saw that shot of the pool, and I was like, you are in a very tight space in that helicopter, and very close
there's
to people.
trees.
There's trees. There's actors.
It's a small helicopter.
And it's big
It's a
enough.
small
Big
helicopter.
enough. But he's flying around, and I was cracking up the entire time he's flying around because he was flying around the end girl, the one that was married and had the daughter, and was like looking at her husband, and her husband was just like, hey, that man is like waving at you. Like, do you know that man? Like, the husband never questions it. He's just like, there's a helicopter, man.
That guy's cool.
Yeah, that guy's cool. Maybe I
He
should
can
get
land
on
in
it.
my backyard if he wants.
Like, he never questions, like, what, do you know the helicopter man? That's
You know a
flying?
helicopter man? You ever gone up in his helicopter?
You ever go up in his helicopter?
I know if I was a woman, I would be very sexually attracted to that helicopter man.
But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. So
Master plot. Try to give us a plot synopsis. Because I feel like we actually have already gone over what the plot is. It's a guy in a helicopter that gets women.
He gets
And
women.
then there's one detail that we are not.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is do you want me to give the spoilers?
I don't mind spoiling this 1970s.
Mild spoilers for the rest of the
So
video.
if you couldn't guess, this is a horror movie.
Because who gives a fuck?
Hugo Stiglitz is a serial killer and cannibal.
oh yeah, I guess he is a cannibal.
You learn where Ridley Scott learned how to direct in that first scene with the woman. Because just like in Alien Covenant, where you have that amazing scene where the one guy follows David into the room with the hey,
You want to see? You want to see this egg?
Perfectly safe. I assure you. Take a look. Something to see.
Like the whole time, he's bringing this girl into his very normal, very cool
You like
monastery.
my spooky
My
castle?
spooky castle, and he has a spooky henchman that is like oogling her.
She's like, oh, that guy really makes me uncomfortable. Is he the only one here? Like your little butler guy? It's like, oh no, he's great. He's not spooky.
Yeah, and he's like,
just mute and gives you creepy looks. And
he also
probably
said
looks like
something
he's gonna
super
kill
creepy,
you.
like there's some other guests, but they don't talk much.
Who else lives here?
Some very charming and silent guests. You'll meet them after we've had dinner.
But then they have dinner, and he's like, why don't you eat this meat?
He's very good at meat.
My butler makes delicious meat.
You've never tasted anything as delicious as this. Dorgo is a great cook, and meat is his specialty.
His specialty is meat.
Anytime in a movie meat is unspecified, especially a movie like this,
Like a horror movie.
it's pretty fair to assume it's human meat.
I was watching with some friends and we were laughing at that scene too, but for a different reason. Because her cut is like this brick.
It looks like a football, yeah.
Yeah, it's like this solid brown brick. It's just dropped on her plate.
What's funny
it
about
doesn't
that
move.
is it looks like that, and then immediately after, the guy's like, my butler is really good at meat.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like he's the best.
That looks like a rock. And then like you look at his and it's like this like bloody piece of meat that he's cutting into,
Yeah.
and I'm just like,
I mean, he's being so like obviously evil about it, and he lives in this creepy castle.
and he has a ton of cats.
Before they came to the creepy monastery and had a 20-minute helicopter fly around Mexico City, he was like, I want to keep you in a crystal ball. And then,
And then it cuts really fast.
and then he holds up a giant
like the sick.
a giant
Anyway, we're
circular
here at the
glass cup. Yeah.
monastery. You're like, what?
What the fuck?
Flying around the helicopter. Yeah.
But that dinner scene ends with the funniest and also most tragic scene.
It is shocking. It's the only part I actually laughed, but it is like I laughed because I was like,
it's
what?
shockingly funny, and this is where like I felt weird after that part because they're eating meat, undisclosed meat, and a white cat just jumps onto the table and starts eating off of the girl's plate. And Hugo Stiglitz, in an uncut take, grabs the cat in a way.
Don't be afraid. I'll be right back.
Grabs it and
and just like is like dragging the cat around.
And
The cat is
shaking it.
clearly a real cat.
It's a
like
real
freaking
cat.
out.
He grabs it, he shakes it, and then it
He's
cuts
grabbing it by the fur too. He's just grabbing it right by the neck.
walks into his dungeon, and then you have this like 12 to 15 foot tall gate fence with a pin of cats, and he just lobs the cat in
The cat actually gets lobbed.
in an uncut take. He just takes this poor little kitty and he just chucks it, and it doesn't
And then
cut.
slow-mo shot of the cat
Slow-mo shot of
flying
the cat.
over the wall.
And then it lands in an unbroken take. I was laughing at first because like in a scene like that, you expect it to cut to the dummy shot. Because like that's,
not this one.
No.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa, that was some cat cruelty.
What is he doing?
Yeah.
They also kill real pigeons in the movie.
That feels less weird to me just because it's like, yeah, people pigeon hunt or whatever, people bird hunt in the 70s. I'm sure this was...
were pets.
Cats are, there's a little Pepper, a little kitty.
Just grab Pepper and chuck her over
I
a
would
wall.
never chuck Pepper. Pepper's the manager here.
It was like a hurl. I would say. He hurled it.
He hurled it, yeah.
He threw this cat with all his strength. Dude.
That cat definitely broke some bones in that. It was shocking at first because of how violent it was. And it's kind of funny until you think about the fact that it's a real cat. Like I was like, because I'm so used to stuff like this in a movie where it wouldn't be a real cat. Like you cut to the dummy and then it's a super violent shot with the dummy, but it never becomes a dummy. It's just a real cat.
And there's no
time.
such claim at the end of the movie that says no animals were harmed.
No, they would be
didn't
lying.
even try to claim that.
Yeah, because they blatantly murdered pigeons.
They blatantly murdered pigeons and they blatantly harmed cats on camera. I didn't care.
Yeah, and I mean, this movie was made in the 70s in Mexico. I'm sure that rules and stuff like that were totally different, but
That definitely. Well, this dude probably just had a bunch of cats, and they're like, "What do we do with a bunch
He
of
did
cats?
not
Why don't we
have a-
make it? Why don't we film a
He did
bunch
not
of?
have a bunch of cats.
Why don't we just film?
He went to a shelter and said, how much for all of them?
Well, I'm saying like there was an abundance of cats, and they're like, "What can we do with a bunch of cats?" We
Yeah.
need more movie about cats.
so the end of this scene is he chucks a cat and he's like, that was very normal. Okay, anyway, come to my dungeon.
I'm going to show you the rest of the place.
And then
I'm going to show you something. that no one
I want to
else
show
has
you
seen.
no one else has seen.
Yeah.
And he takes her to this dungeon, and just like the scene in Alien Covenant, if you have half of a brain, you're like, this guy's evil and is leading me to something evil.
Well, the castle's evil.
He has room, and he's like, yes, everyone in my family's collected something, and I've collected something different.
All of my ancestors had a mania for collecting, but my collection is going to be the most original and interesting of all. You will see it.
I've collected something that nobody in the world has. And then it cuts to a table of human heads, female heads, that all kind of have a similar like age and build to her. She puts two and two together.
She goes, no.
And
She goes, eek.
And he goes,
Let's get out of
they're
here.
wax.
Don't be afraid. They're only made of wax.
They're wax.
Thank God.
Make out with me, please.
Oh, okay, they're waxed. That makes perfect
Let's
sense.
make out. Why do you keep
Let's
them
make
in
out.
suspicious liquid if they're wax?
Wax probably also goes in suspicious liquid.
And then maybe the fastest strangle in the entire decade.
She loses all of her oxygen in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, what you didn't see, dude, is that when he's making out with her, he's actually sucking the air out of her.
Sucking the air out.
All
So
the
she
air
started
first,
out with
and then-
empty lungs.
Yeah.
It
and then he's-
happened so fast I had to rewind it because I thought she just dropped dead of nothing.
If you just add a neck crack sound effect,
Like
you know, that's just
something,
easy. Like,
anything, yeah.
like broke her neck.
I only have 5 lines on my notes. Line number 3. No real plot, just scenes. There's just scenes that happen. To answer your question.
It is. The plot is this guy has a helicopter and he goes around collecting women and feeding them to cats.
The beginning
This
of the
guy has a
movie is kind of a microcosm of what the rest of the movie looks like. It is just this guy going around finding different women with his helicopter.
using the helicopter for seduction. Using the helicopter.
Using
as
the
seduction.
helicopter for seduction.
Hey, You want to be in this helicopter and go to my creepy castle?
There was a part where it took me and my friends a while to figure out what he was doing, because it's the one where there's the girl in the bikini and like they're just doing hand signals at each other, and we're like, what's going on? And then we finally realized
he's giving her his number or whatever. She's giving him.
She is giving him the phone number through hand signals, which I've never seen before. But he never calls her. Do they hook up?
They do hook up later.
They do hook up.
He doesn't use her. He doesn't take her to his creepy castle.
That's because she's like, I'm too busy with my actual sugar daddy.
I'm gonna take that guy to my spooky castle. Something that I feel like is happening in this movie is that I think they had way more of a movie to make, and they just did. Like two budget constraints. I think they were just kind of like, we'll shoot this movie for as long as we can. If we can't get the whole script out, we'll just cut it together and figure it out. Feels like it's just like the idea is missing a bunch of things, because there's like slight allusions to other themes and scenes and stuff, but they kind of like, no, we spent all the money on the helicopter scenes, and so we'll just do that every time, and then that'll be the end of it, and then he gets eaten by cats.
Yeah, my first note was it's only 63 minutes, because that's the first thing I noticed when I was looking at the movie.
Very short, flew by.
The runtime is literally the only thing keeping me from being mad, because I didn't like the movie. The movie's terrible. There's like a couple funny moments, but mostly it's just a guy flying around in a helicopter and picking up women and then feeding them to cats.
See, but some of that stuff
like 4 times.
If it weren't for the animal cruelty, I would say that there are elements of this movie that are so fucking charming, because it's hilarious that he just flies around and like every single time he was just in a woman's backyard. He does not try a
different method.
Yeah, he's just flying 15 feet.
Even a little bit.
No.
He just flies around his helicopter and gets really close into their backyard, and they casually are like,
hey.
Or he goes up
guy.
to the apartment window of a girl as she's coming out of the bathroom, and she's just like,
No, sorry. I know what you're trying to do.
I know what you're trying to do. This happens all the time. But then at the end, she was
all the time.
At the end she kind of smiled, like maybe
next time
he has a helicopter.
He does have money.
If it wasn't for the animal cruelty, because I feel like that kind of took me back a lot on this movie, where I was like, the funny stuff is tainted by the fact that I did watch him almost kill a cat.
Took me back on this movie is that they clearly did not have 1,000 cats.
No, it's like maybe 200.
It's maybe 200.
Yeah.
So I'm like, listen, I get you want your movie to sound cooler than Night of 100 Cats.
Yeah.
But like, that's more accurate.
Or Night of the Cats.
Night of the
you could
Cats?
even just done that, yeah.
Or Night of 100 Cats.
Night of too many cats. We can all agree it's too many cats, but it's not 1,000 cats.
Keegan, what does he do with the cats? Why does he have
a pin and he throws human meat to them?
Here's where my theory about it being an unfinished movie comes in, is that I'm like, why is any of this happening? Why is he have all these cats? Why is he feeding all these women to cats? Like, there's literally no explanation for anything.
Nothing.
Like, I get maybe he wants to collect heads. He's got a big room, a trophy room with a bunch of stuff. He wants to collect heads. I got that. Why does he have 1,000 cats that he has to feed women to? And apparently there's no rules to that either. He feeds his butler to the cats too.
No,
it's almost like there's 3 different writers.
He feeds the doctor to the cats.
What you are getting at, dude, is why I find elements of this movie so charming. Like the fact that those are not thought out at all.
Things don't happen for any reason. Where does he get those cats? Why does he have so many cats? Does he just collect? Like they just show up at his castle and he throws them in there?
Well, I thought at first what they were going for was he was intentionally training them to like human meat, so he would have an army of flesh-eating cats.
See, I bet you there was something like that there, but they just didn't ever film it.
Like a Satanism.
Well, yeah, an army of flesh-eating cats to feed the human meat to when he killed them. Well, that's what he obviously. That's what he needed.
It was more like a practical thing. He was like, "What's the best way to get rid of a body? I'll feed him to cats."
He already eats them.
But that wasn't explored that much either. It's kind of explored in the first scene, but like after that, they don't really.
Well, no, but as he's feeding the cats, he's also taking bits for himself too.
And then, to be fair, when the butler is incinerating the bodies, it does look like an entire full body with most of the meat still on it.
I was very confused. Like, I was like, oh, he feeds the...
Well, that's the organs and the bones.
Yeah,
the head was
I figured that out later.
Yeah. Well, you don't eat the head.
He takes the heads! He takes the heads!
I know what you were going for, dude.
He has the heads in his, he keeps them!
Your butler also brings along some sort of little heirloom that he discovers.
Yeah.
That he's like, a toy. He like puts the thing in his head or whatever. Otherwise...
I thought that was going to tie into like them getting discovered by the cops and then like...
No, dude, this castle's way too far away for them to... It's Mexico, dude.
How many people have a private fucking helicopter in Mexico City?
Yeah, how many people have disappeared by helicopter?
Yeah, they're not investigating these missing women that have all been seen next to the man with the helicopter.
The way they can find him is to figure it out. It's
yeah,
like,
that's what
I'm last seen getting in his helicopter.
Look up in the sky.
Yeah, going to his creepy castle. How many guys named Hugo Stiglitz fly around in their helicopter and go into people's backyards?
This movie is just if Mr. Plinkett had a spooky castle and helicopter. Is what I was thinking by the end of it. It's like, hey, come to my spooky castle and meet my cats.
And that's the entire reason this movie was made, is they had access to a helicopter.
They had access to a helicopter and they just bought 100 cats.
Yeah, and they're like,
What do we do?
And the monastery.
And they had a monastery.
They had a monastery.
That spooky monastery was a good location.
I like
good
the
location.
Yeah. Good location.
And the music was infinitely better and more fitting than Play Misty for me.
Nah, dude.
Yes, dude.
I don't even remember the music in House
It
of
was
the Cats.
better. But
Not by much. I'm saying it's better than Play Misty for me.
But
There's
then-
music
but
in
then-
this movie?
every time we cut back to the helicopter, it was the same thing. This is the same song.
I wrote down one of the pool women. He flies into her backyard, and every time it cuts to her, a song is playing. It's like, and then it cuts to him, and the music's not playing. And then it'll cut back to her. Is it diegetic music? Is she playing it from a boombox?
Listen, dude, the editor was trying to compose a plot somehow with the footage they had. He did not care about that kind of stuff.
That is an editing decision that we would make making a silly comedy, where it's like, oh, as a joke, every time it cuts back to this character, it's playing a stupid song because we want you to laugh at that. But this is not supposed to be a comedy.
No.
But it's just like, it's doing, I crack me up because it's just like, how could
Yeah,
you
I don't
make
think
that
there's any
decision?
intentional humor in
No.
this movie.
No.
I think it's all supposed to be serious and creepy and
Yes.
weird. But it is weirdly funny. And I think the fact that it's like, well, we got one thing going for it and we're just doing this over and over again is what kind of makes it a more humorous plot and less of a horror movie, because it's just kind of like you don't get any answers for anything.
I did write down that, Jesus Christ, that cat pit would smell horrible.
Oh my
Yes.
god. It would be so awful.
It would be abysmal.
So did you guys know that there are actually hundreds and hundreds
Of cats.
of amazing 70s horror films? If this was a 70s horror channel, we would literally die before running out of good 70s horror movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we are.
Well, this is kind of what I was saying with the whole war going on, is that like we are squandering a good theme.
You guys have shifted through mountains of untapped gold to find Night of a Thousand Cats.
I don't regret it.
it's a good movie.
Well,
I would
listen,
recommend
dude,
it.
Kevin, what would we talk about if we watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Probably
We
a
would
lot.
talk
It
about
be-
how incredible the movie is. Yeah, Ganja was our worst review yet. If it's a good movie, this Keegan might not like it. There's debate.
Yeah.
There.
If we
you know.
watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I would just talk about how similar it is to Seed People, the original idea by Charles Band.
In Comet Valley, the seeds that aliens have planted have grown inside of human souls.
We get angry.
Yeah, see, I'm angry now.
So do you guys know there's actually another famous actor playing the butler is Tamura Morrison himself.
Like a panther.
Current Tamura.
I was gonna say someone cosplaying as Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now.
yeah, that's true.
What was his name? Like Dorgo or something like that?
It's like
Dorcas.
Dorcas, yeah.
Dorgo is an excellent butler. He's obedient and as faithful as a cat.
Yeah, that's
Dude, it's so
Dorgo.
stupid.
He's a normal person.
It's like
He's like licking his lips as the woman walks up. He's like, "Oh, that's just my butler, Dorgo."
no paying attention
He's-
to Dorcas. He's fine. He's
he's a-
licking his lips for some other reason and polishing his gun or whatever he's doing.
He's loyal, like a
loyal.
cat.
They're not loyal.
Well, that was a good
But
setup.
that was a
good
it pays
setup.
off later. That pays off later.
Pays off later.
That pays
Yeah.
off- that pays
Jordan
off later.
Peele
That's good stuff.
wept.
I like how he tells Dorcas, "Don't kill this one."
No, Dorgo. Not her.
And then just immediately, this is like, I'm gonna kill
Dorcas
her.
is like, "Well, this is the only one I have to kill, actually."
He's like, I'm gonna kill this one because that's what I do.
That
I kill the
happens in
one
a
and put him-
flashback scene. We get
Yes.
a flashback scene
Get a
because
flashback.
the only one that he truly loved.
Which had some very funny slow mo.
alluding to like a grander story that
Yeah.
just never actually pays off. They just have whatever they filmed, and they're
Yeah.
like, we're out of money. Yeah, he pushes Dorcas into the cats. And
Yeah.
the cats eat him alive.
Like immediately, it was just like, it appears Dorcas is getting smarter. Ah!
Fine, Dorgo. Checkmate. You're learning.
Also, something that is just unrealistic.
That was
with
the whole
this movie. The one unrealistic thing is that all those cats are in those cages, and I'm like, I could climb out of there. A cat could easily climb out of there.
But they didn't.
No, they could.
Well, one did.
They had tons of footage of the cats going, oh shoot, I can climb this, and then they would just cut before it actually climbs too far.
One night in that cage, all those cats would be out.
They would all be out.
Yeah.
I've seen cats scale walls, just flat walls. They just go, just put their claws into the wall, and just sheer will.
They do so many long zooms, which first of all, I will never, ever fault.
That's the best part of the 70s,
for having
dude.
zooms. And they in this movie they use those zooms largely to make Hugo Stiglitz look scary, right around on his bike or whatever.
Hugo
and then they're
Stiglitz cannot look scary.
and I was saying that I put in here. I was like, he just looks like a '70s Greg Sestero. He doesn't look scary to me at all.
What are you talking about?
This movie also is one of the rarer instances where the horror villain is the main character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Interesting aspect
Even for the
about it.
time, that was not super common.
The last thing I wanted to talk about was one of my favorite scenes, which was the boat scene, because he's been courting this woman for a while, and he's taking her on dates, and then they're just on a boat in the middle of this river, and he starts acting super weird.
Let's go back. It's getting late.
It's already too late. I found the right piece for my collection.
I've just found what I needed for my collection, and somehow she puts together.
Yeah,
in
I
that
don't know
moment
how she figured out that he's a murderer.
He's a
from that.
murderer.
Because she looked down and was like, there's a fishing spear.
Yeah.
He's a psycho.
And she's like, bye.
To be fair, a woman might be like, no, in that moment, I would have put those two things together.
I forgot
That guy's
about
a
the
creep.
fishing spear thing. He did the fishing spear.
Yeah, and
Which he just fully whipped it.
Oh, dude, he chucks it at her. I fully
real life.
believe that Hugo Stiglitz was trying to murder that woman on camera.
The intimate scenes were very funny.
Oh, that one scene where he's banging that chick and it's zooming in on all the
When
heads.
zooming in on the animals, there's one of a monkey, and in between the monkey's hands is a cat head.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wait,
Yeah, no,
what?
it was so weird. And not just that, but the actual sex itself, he wasn't even moving. For a good chunk of it, he was just steamrolling her.
That's how he does it,
Which,
dude.
you know, women, we all know that that's what women love to get off to. You just lay flat on it, you steamroll
Well, see,
them.
Hugo Stiglitz is in it for the killing women, feeding them to cats. He's not into it like for banging and stuff. He just wants to pick them up in the helicopter and feed them to cats too.
And so
he's not sexually into it.
No, he's doing that for them.
Yeah, he's doing it because that's part of the seduction. If I don't bang them, they're gonna be suspicious.
I will say, despite everything, though, the ending, the very, very ending, was way more solid than I thought it would be. For how much of a mess the movie was, when it cuts to the heads and then it goes to the empty one and then it's his head in there and it says the end, I was like, someone
framed up in it, yeah.
Someone had an idea and they did it. Like, if that was in a good 70s horror movie.
I did like that the cats got out and ate him. I freaking hate that guy.
Yeah.
They hate
Well, yeah, because he chucks them.
He chucks them around and they don't want to eat human. They want to eat cat
This is where
food.
even that scene. So the first time I watched that scene, when I was just scrubbing through Tubi, I think I assumed that the cats being thrown at the camera were dummy cats.
Oh no, that
They
is more
were-
cat abuse.
That is the ending is more cat abuse.
Oh, and they throw cats at the actors.
They throw real cats at the actors, which is also actor abuse. I could not get away with throwing a real cat at an actor.
There are so many shots
Yes, we could.
flying through the air that are supposed to be like, oh, the cat's jumping at him, but it's like, no, they just chuck
There is
the cat.
very clearly a man off.
And they did it a lot of times.
Yes.
Speaking of that ending shot, if you look, the cats are all starting to move to the left side, and they're all staring up at someone. There is clearly someone on the left side,
like
right off camera.
Yeah.
And he has to be like have treats or something because all the cats are like slowly moving over and
slowly
staring at
noticing.
him.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
I pay attention to cats, dude.
Also, those cats
Yeah.
got that chick.
Oh, for sure.
She's running away, and like they keep showing the cats running. I'm like, cats are really. They
Have you
get to her
ever
immediately.
beaten a cat at a race?
Never.
Yeah, no one has.
Well, I mean, I have a couple times, but
Yeah.
Well, your cat's really fat.
well, I'm just saying, just you throw any cat at me, I'm pretty much always faster. than
No,
I-
most
I-
cats are faster.
No,
than
no,
you.
no, no.
I've caught Mikey running. Like I got run him and grabbed him.
That's probably fair. I believe that. I don't believe.
No, I'm talking about race, like race.
like actual race.
Yeah, like
you
he's
race
like
the
chasing
cat.
after something, like that's like kind of like a game. Like I'm talking like
This is kind of like a game, you know, like but a race, like a real
This
race.
is like a real race.
Yeah,
like,
I don't believe.
Final thoughts for Night of 1,000 Cats,
Yeah.
which
Night of
didn't
1,000
take place in a night or had 1,000 cats.
Yeah.
I will say it was really bad. I didn't hate it at all. Thought it was an enjoyable bad movie.
Because it's an hour.
Because it is an hour and 3 fucking
It's an
minutes or whatever
hour,
it was.
and like there are funny things happening. Like the fact that he's
Like,
flying
it's
around
ridiculous.
in a helicopter.
And he drops down the doll.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah. There's like it's like enough weird things where it's like if it was in a longer movie, yeah, you'd be like that stuff doesn't do it.
Yeah, if this was an hour and a half of the same crap,
Yeah.
I would be much more negative on it. Because even with it being an hour, I did not watch it straight in 1 hour. I had to take a break because I was like, man, this is like...
I watched this.
yeah, I knocked it straight out. I watched
So
it.
would you recommend it?
Absolutely. Normal people, no, not at all. Honestly, if you like bad horror movies, it's a really fun It kind of reminded me of that one we watched before, which I almost recommended just because Sam Slade hadn't seen it. I really wanted him to.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Deathbed, The Bed That Eats.
Yeah, I haven't seen it still.
It is that is a bad movie masterpiece. It's really great.
I would say
and
this is
awful.
more enjoyable. Like it has more enjoyable moments.
For
than
sure,
Deathbed.
for sure. But I mean, if you like that kind of vibe, it is of that vibe, and I think it's a lot of fun.
I thought it was fun. It's an hour. It doesn't outwear its welcome. If it was longer, I don't think we would like it as much.
Drag.
But it's just fun. It's something to put on in the background and enjoy.
The cuts were very there's
there's a lot of-
so it constantly wakes you up.
There are just really weird cuts.
The filmmaking craft is so poorly done. I've not seen very many like straight up Mexican productions.
Especially not from that era.
But it made me want to explore more Mexican cinema. Mexican horror sounds like a really fun rabbit hole to go down because we're not terribly familiar with that kind of stuff. So if you have any Mexican horror films that you want us to watch, drop a comment.
Roma.
Apparently has another notable movie, Tintorera, the Killer Shark.
Hugo Stiglitz as a rich young man in search of romance and adventure. Tintorera, fantastic scenes of real tiger sharks in action.
They'd probably kill a real shark on camera.
I would not recommend it because it's kind of hard to recommend. But if you're a horror fan, like Kevin said, and you're just looking for creepy horror movies that with weird vibes and weird angles to them, it's like, why not? Of course.
If you want to laugh, there's worse ways.
If you want to see some
hour.
weird things and you're okay with watching some animal abuse.
Yeah, I would give the biggest caveat.
Yeah.
The animal
I'm talking
abuse
weirdos
is
like
genuinely
Kevin
hard to
watching
stomach
it.
for me. Like that first scene was pretty unsettling.
But
with
other
how,
than that, I would for sure not recommend it. And I would say it's not good, but I didn't hate it, just like Kevin said. I didn't hate it.
This is one of those spooky of the week movies that I kind of wish we'd all watch together. I think it's best enjoyed in a group where you're having a couple drinks and you're putting on a shitty movie.
It
you're
is
just shocked by
shitty.
everything
It is
happening.
not
where you can talk over.
It's not the funny moments are not even that consistent. There's it's
I kind of wish we watched it.
The
together.
concept of him flying around the helicopter is funny, but it's okay, it is 45 minutes of him flying around in the helicopter. I liked that he got eaten by cats at the end. That was
Pepper, what did you think of the cat abuse?
What would you give it out of 1,000
she's wagging her
cats?
tail, which means she doesn't like it.
She doesn't like cat abuse, yeah.
Purring very loudly.
Well, she likes you petting her,
Yeah.
but the tail is her thoughts, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it.
We're 0 for 2 with these 70s horror movies as far as
So far, this is the
recommending-
worst genre of.
We're picking horrible. We could have picked better movies. We could have made Keegan watch The Exorcist.
Well, one thing we could have. One thing that this entire experiment, this whole theme, has really taught me. There's always every year there's a new video that comes out from somebody that's oh, movies are getting worse. Movies are just getting worse.
There's always terrible movies.
They're just getting them. They used to make movies really good back in the 70s when people fought in wars and then they came back from the war and they wrote scripts, and now they don't do that anymore. Random people say that.
It's weird. Yeah, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, no one specific. This really has reminded me that they've been making trash since the dawn of time.
Even back when they had only film.
It's just nobody knows about the trash. You have to go finding the trash.
I would also argue this is my brave tweet about the 2 movies that we've watched so far in Spooky the Week. The trash from the 70s, adjusted for budget, I would say the trash from the 70s is worse than the trash from today.
You can get away with a lower budget now.
Yeah.
Whereas in the 70s, it's a lot harder.
The floor has been raised. The worst movies today, and there's outliers for sure, but a lot of the bad movies are just kind of boring. But the actual filmmaking craft is usually infinitely better than the 2 movies that we've watched so far.
Yeah.
I see people on Letterboxd or on Twitter that'll be like, "Oh, the 70s was the decade that cinema peaked," and it's just like, okay, yeah, it did.
Yeah, but you can find a lot of terrible.
There's so much trash that came out that decade.
Well,
Fun fact: every decade.
This isn't
and every decade
exactly
sucks.
related to that exact sentiment, but like we've had friends that have been like, Rosenberg one time was like, "There's just never been a bad Western," and I'm like,
That is just not true at all.
Trust me, I love Westerns. That's why I know there's terrible ones.
Yeah.
It's like it filters. Like you don't hear about or know about the bad ones.
survivor bias. You only hear about the top 10%.
Same with 70s movies and just movies from the past. It's like, you're gonna be like, oh man, that decade had Aliens, it had The Exorcist, it had whatever.
It had Alien. It didn't have Aliens.
Oh, Alien. Sorry.
There was only one.
Alien.
Yeah.
But then you find movies like Night of the 100 Cats or whatever.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching this week's Spooky of the Week. Next week, it's going to be Keegan's movie.
What is
Alabama's Ghost.
So if you want to follow along with Spooky of the Week, check out Alabama's Ghost. Where can they find it?
It's on Amazon Prime. It might be on Tubi as well.
Now, Keegan, where is Alabama's Ghost going to fit in with the movies we've watched so far?
So first off, it is horror. It says so in the tagline.
Horror comedy.
Yes.
Comedy, wow. Intentional?
Yes.